Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. It's me, Kevin Borba, and Jordan Dominic, former Buff himself. We just talked about the quarterback situation, so go check that out if you missed it. We're talking about what needs to be better. Colorado wins convincingly, 31-7 against Delaware, but there was two things that stood out to me that could be better. And I'll take the offensive side of things, and I'll let you take the defensive side of things since that's your MO. Offensively, I think that the run blocking situation could be a little bit better. I'm not going to pretend like I have the answers to that situation, that problem, but I think Colorado's pass protection has been tremendous this year, much better than it was the past 2 years where they had probably the worst offensive lines in college football. But now I think it's time for the run blocking to step up a little bit. We saw running behind Jordan Seaton worked. We broke that down in our film breakdown. If you want to become a Locked on Buffs insider, the link will be below in the comment section. Me and Jordan, we did a film breakdown. Jordan explained everything that Colorado was doing right, doing wrong, and I think running behind Jordan Seaton is working well for them, and I think they should do more of it. And I think the rest of the offensive line needs to continue to figure out how to push the defensive line forward. Jordan, what is one thing that the defense needs to do better from your perspective?
The defense needs to tackle. They need to wrap up. They need to have better angles. They need to be more anticipative, and they need to be more aggressive when it comes to tackling. That is one thing that we did see. We saw Delaware had almost 400 yards on the day, and that was simply because they would run simple little routes that would be like 5 yard outs, 7 yard outs, and they would end up going for about 30, 40 more yards after the catch because Colorado wasn't able to tackle on the back end. There were some good plays where there was a lot of effort on the defensive side, which I do love. People were getting to the ball. There was one play specifically where we had a defensive lineman that had rushed all the way down to the offensive line's 5 yard line on a pass rush, and he ended up making the tackle at 35 down the field.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of effort from a lot of
Shout out
people.
Anquin Barnes. Yeah.
Shout them out, shout them out. So there were a lot of people that show that they had place, they had flashes, and they showed talent of what they could do. But we definitely need to do better with the tackling. And I don't know if that has to do with the drills or just simply the angle that people take. But there were a few good plays. There was a lot of bad when it came to that. And one more thing we could do is, like I said, the defensive line could play a little bit better during against the run. They could get more penetration and they need to be able to hold up their gaps. And we saw flashes of both Colorado's defensive game where they were able to, show impact after impact play. One that steps out the mind from the film breakdown was Jeremiah Brown on that 4th and 1 goal on a stop.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado called a 6-man blitz. Jeremiah Brown ended up getting into the backfield, but the entire defensive line was playing on the offensive side of the ball. So that was something good. So one thing that Colorado's going to have to focus on this week against Houston is being able to be stout up front on the line, playing aggressive, and the tackling. They have to make sure that they can tackle in the open field against Houston because they have great wide receivers, they have great running backs, and they have a quarterback that also can move. And he is a really good quarterback. He's shown flashes of what he can do. He showed his talent as well over at Houston for their first 2 weeks. So I feel like it's going to be a good test for them, especially after the game they just played.
Yeah, I think when you don't have to play this game of what are we going to do at quarterback, and you just move straight forward with whatever the answer is. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but we both think it's going to be Staub. Jordan, let's just go back a little bit. You talked about tackling. You said you don't know if it's angles, you don't know if it's technique or whatever. How do you get better at tackling? Like that very like dumb question, but like as a player on defense, you guys are missing tackles. How do you improve that? Because they missed 13 total as a team, which isn't great.
So the main thing that a lot of people need to realize that if you're going to tackle somebody, especially somebody strong, you have to cut them off at their legs. You have to go low. So a lot of tackling, a lot of the missed tackles that they had was a lot of them going high. They were trying to wrap up around the shoulder pads. They were trying to sling, and you can't do that, especially if you're going against somebody that has a strong lower body and has a good center of gravity. Um, you have to be able to tackle low. A lot of other people, a few missed tackles were because people were trying to shoot their shot, but once again, that was the angle that they were taking. There was one play where I remember they were on the Delaware was on their, I believe, 10 yard line, and they threw a 5 yard out to the side. And the who was it? I can't remember the name of the boy from Delaware, but he ended up turning it up the sideline. He ended up getting turned back inside by Stoudemire, who ended up shooting his shot, and it looked good. He was able to do what he needed to do, and ended up turning it the no, turning the ball carrier back into the teeth of the defense. And even though he did that, there was a linebacker there that ended up missing the tackle, even though he was able to hit him. And that was all because, hey, he was angling at one direction instead of another.
Mhm.
And this is the same play that Barnes ended up making that tackle 35 yards down the field.
Yeah.
So one thing about it, to be able to tackle, you have to be low on a defense. Oh, you have to be low on the ball carrier. You have to wrap up. You can't just try to swipe or just grab with hands. You have to put your body onto their body, and you
Mhm.
have to drive your feet through the ground. You can't just stop your feet on contact. You can't just hit and just be like, okay, you just gonna come down with me, or I'm gonna just throw you down. No, these are some strong running backs that they've played, and Delaware had some pretty good players. Um, you have to be able to wrap up. You have to be able to get low on somebody, and you have to drive your feet. Those are the three main components of wrapping up, the three main components of tackling. And the main thing that you have to do is have the angle on the player. You can't just try and shoot your shot when you know that they have shifty players. So you have to be able to tackle in open space, which is, I'm saying this is a lot harder than it is. And that's just something that you have to drill every day in practice, 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 practice. Even if
Mhm.
you're only thudding, thud in the way that you would want to tackle somebody, you know? So
Interesting.
that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Colorado tackles a little bit better, and I think some of those big plays they don't happen at all, right? I think
Mm.
Colorado, that play you're talking about in particular on the sideline, I think there was 3 missed tackles, 4 missed tackles. The play where Ben Finiseth forced the fumble it was like the 5-yard line. That was like a 45-yard play before Ben came in, right? Like you're allowing plays that should be a maximum gain of 7 to 10 yards turn into gains of 20 to 40 yards, and that's not sustainable, right? You can't
Yeah.
win games if you're going to be giving up big plays like that. So offensively, they need to get a stronger push in the run game, because I do think the running backs are playing really well for Colorado, and I think we're due for Deion Sanders' first 100-yard rusher any game now. And defensively, wrap up a little bit better, and I think teams will have a harder time moving the ball against the Buffs. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, Jordan's going to talk to us about what it's like to win on the road and how it's difficult and what Colorado needs to do in order to do just that.